Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, welcome. My name is Heather, and on this channel we like to walk a very fine line between a shopping addicted makeup monster and a responsible adult with a makeup hobby. Now, I really enjoy eyeshadow singles, duochromes, multichromes, blush, highlight, lip gloss, basically everything except pressed glitter. And today I'm going to go through my January palette ranking. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, stick with me. We're getting into it right now. All right, you guys, if you like this look, it should be coming very soon. This is with the Blend Bunny Lure palette. And I think what I'm going to do first is just go over a couple of like face and lip products that I tried out over the last like month or so, just so I can kind of get them reviewed and get them put back away. So the first thing that I wanted to mention was these two. These were mascaras from the Fantasy Makers collection from Halloween this past year by Wet n Wild. They're supposed to be colored mascaras, but the actual like tips on them are so wide and so like spiky and painful that you actually can't really get any mascara onto your lashes with these. So these were a huge waste of time and money, and I wasn't sure if I mentioned them anywhere, but they needed to be mentioned so that I can get them out of my life. Okay, so for face products, I did try the Ulta Beauty 3-in-1 face palette. This is the Santorini Sun one, and I did really like this. I like how this is kind of like this muted rose shade. You've got a really nice like luminous bronzer and a nice highlighter. This does have a little bit of like sparkliness to it, so if you're not a huge fan of like really in your face highlighter, I'm not sure you would like this, but I did really enjoy it, so I'm glad I picked that one up. I was also sent by influencer the Tom Ford. This is the Shade and Illuminate Contour Duo in intensity 0.5. This, so this is what I don't like about it. If you can see, the actual product like gums up the highlighter, so it like transfers some of your foundation off your skin into the highlighter pan, which makes it look very messy. The contour part of it I think is great. The highlighter part I think is nice after it dries down, but because it's so finicky and it lifts your foundation, I'm not sure that it's like truly worth the cost, because this I think is almost $90. So I would probably pass on that one if I were you. I also picked up this Glowish by Huda Beauty Soft Radiance Bronzing Powder. This is in the shade 01 Light. I really like this. I know some people really did not, but I thought it was a really nice bronzer. Obviously, I'm super light, and it's the bronzer that I'm wearing today, so I feel like it has a little bit of luminosity without being like super sparkly. I think it's very flattering on my particular skin tone, so I look forward to continuing to use this one. I did also pick up from Sephora. This is a contour single, and I picked it up because I don't really have like a small contour anywhere. So I grabbed this one because it's like so perfectly gray. I don't know why my camera does not want to stay in focus for anything today. Sorry about that, guys. But this is like a perfect gray that you can use for contour. I do have it on my face today, and I feel like it does give you that like contoured line without being too like smudgy and dirty appearing on the face. So super, super impressed by this. If you guys are looking for a contour single, definitely check out the Sephora ones. I'm sure they'll be on sale for the next Sephora sale that you can probably catch them then. I tried out the OG Michaela Glam Light highlighter, which I've had sitting around for a little while now, and I do really like it. Obviously, it's like super intense and impactful. You can see like a swatch right there. Definitely like nice wet look on the skin. I really like it. Now that Michaela has all this drama has come out, I don't know that I would buy it now, but back when I bought it, the drama was not there. So there's that. Then I have this ColourPop Jubilee Chorus Super Shock tie-dye highlighter. I really like this one. It has like some white gold, some pink, and like yellow gold flecks in it. See, there we go. I don't know if you can catch all the different like lights in there, but I do think it's super pretty. It actually reminds me a lot of one of the Odin's Eye highlighters that they did, the Veil of might have been the Veil of Future or the Veil of Destiny. One of those veil ones that was like a single reminds me of one of those. I tried this Star Show Shadow Pot. This is 14 TFTI. I like these, you guys. These are like really, really nice and buttery as a texture, and they go on so smoothly. I was very impressed when I used this. It's like very buttery. Goes on, it has great payoff. I used mine with a glitter glue. I almost always use glitter glue with my shimmers, but it stayed all day, did not crease. I was very impressed by this one. I do have a couple other ones that I need to try, but this one was really, really nice. And then last, before the lip products, is this Work It Stick Duo from ColourPop, which I picked up at Target when they first launched that like ColourPop Target um, collection. And I do think the shades are pretty. Like, that is not the issue at all. They just don't seem to work very well for like waterline liner, which is kind of what I was hoping to be able to use them for. So there's the two shades. Why on earth I did that, I don't know. But there's the two shades. They are very, very pretty. They're not going to work the way I thought they were going to work. So I need to find a way to kind of repurpose them to get my money's worth. And then last up are a bunch of lippies. Again, I picked up the Michaela, the original trio that she had when I ordered from Glamlight back around Black Friday time frame, I want to say. So this was obviously before all the drama came out. They're just fine lip glosses, nothing to write home about. And then I tried two of these from the Crumb Shop. They did a BT21 collection, and these are actually really nice. They kind of remind me of the Fenty Beauty lip stains in that they have that kind of like slippery, oily kind of feel to them, and then they dry down not as like a matte liquid lip, but just as like a stain. So I really have been enjoying using those. And then I was messing around with this ColourPop Lip Stick in Songbird, which just looks like that. It's like a nice kind of almost warm toned berry shade. Very nice, very work appropriate depending on what my eyeshadow looks like. So those are kind of the makeup-y things that are non-eyeshadow related that I just wanted to give you a quick shout out about. Let's get into the palettes. So I'm gonna say that we're reviewing 12, or we're gonna be ranking 12 palettes today. There is one sort of honorable mention that we'll get to. But first up is this Tarte palette. This is the Gilded palette. Now, this is part of a duo. Look at all those fingerprints. Oof. This is part of a duo that came out for Christmas time, and it was half off at Ulta, and I went ahead and picked it up. So this is the sort of warm toned neutral half. Now I did actually do a look with this, and I did really like how the look came out. But again, warm tone neutral is just not like my main go-to. So the other half of this palette definitely drew me in more, and you'll see it's higher up in the ranking. This side, it's great quality. It's just not my ideal color story, so it fell to the bottom. Next up is the Natasha Denona Glam palette, and this is the same thing. I pulled into this for like one like nice smoky look because I wanted to compare it to something else I have coming up later in this video, and I liked the look, but the shimmers just didn't give me the intensity that I want them to have. Like this inner corner one has a little bit of that like kind of sparkly specialty type formula, but everything else in here is just kind of like basic metallics, and so it kind of floats to the bottom because of that. Turn off my phone here. Next up, and this is where our sort of runner up comes in. This is the Jaclyn Strawberry Fields palette, and I picked this one up because I was like eyeing it, eyeing it, eyeing it, and then finally they had a sale around Black Friday that basically gave you like 70, almost 80% off of the Jaclyn products. So I picked up a couple of things that I had been eyeing, and I'm glad I did because now the brand is like going out of business or whatever. But this palette I was super interested in, and then when I got it, I was like, this is not pink. Like you have this shade which is kind of like a coral. You have this which I would consider a pink. You have this which I would consider a red. And then you have a lot of like warm toned browny peachy shades, which I was like for a palette called Strawberry Feels, I was kind of thrown off by. And I did a look with this palette and I did really like it, but I didn't find myself like wanting to come back to it and come back to it. And I felt myself needing to pull in some actual pinks to complement this eye look. So I ended up getting this Juvia's Place palette out, which this is the Sweet Pinks 6-pan palette. And I was using, I believe, these two pinks just to try to kind of punch up the pink effect that this one was definitely missing. So it's a nice, like, decent palette. It's not anything to write home about. And if you're looking for something that's pink, like, fun fact, it's just not pink. So that is what that is. Next up, this is actually the first palette that I bought in this year, which is the ColourPop Pretty Please palette. And I think the like Paris and Lockets kind of vibe is really cute on this. The inside looks like this, and you have like three of those really nice kind of like putty Super Shock shades, which I like. No press glitters, which I love. The only struggle for me is that all three of these like deep shades are actually not terribly deep. So it's kind of like a light to mid-tone palette. The shimmers are pretty, but they're not like super dimensional the way I wish they were. So it just kind of like falls a little bit short for me. I think it will complement other palettes in my collection very nicely, but as a standalone, I feel like it needs a little bit of something extra. Next up is the Flower Beauty and ET palette. Now, I picked this up because I thought the actual like design, like the colors in the palette that they picked out were really cute. Like this shade here, this kind of sparkly shade here, and then you've got this one down here. Sorry, I'm doing this backwards, you guys. The thing that I don't like is number one, this is super duper bulky. Like the actual palette is only about like this much space. We've got all this above and below that it's taking up a lot of space. And the closure is this flimsy piece of plastic right here. Like I think you can see it there. This is the closure. You have to tuck it in to this side of the packaging to hold it close. Like what? What? You did a collab with a franchise that you belong to, and you couldn't afford like a magnet or like anything better than this weak plastic thing that will inevitably snap off, and then I will have no way to keep this palette closed. Like that kind of pisses me off because this palette was $20. So if you're going to charge $20 for a palette, like it needs to be able to close forever. So it fell down lower in the ranking because of that, on top of which it doesn't have, I think it has like one matte in it, and it just wasn't enough to make a complete look, so I had to bring in other things to kind of round it out. Next up, and I'm kind of surprised this one fell as low as it did, is the Pat McGrath. This is the original Mothership Subversive, and it looks like this. My aunt was kind enough to gift this to me, and I like it. It's pretty. The baked shades are gorgeous. But when I put them on my eyes, like I just don't get the kind of payoff that I was expecting. Like you can see it here, but it's not like a super opaque. It's like a toppery kind of formula for all of the baked shades. And I'm just kind of bummed. But I do really like the mattes in here. Like these cool tone mattes in here are like stupid pretty. So it came up a little higher than other stuff because the mattes kind of saved it, but I was really kind of shocked that the shimmers didn't perform better. All right, next is the Sunset Horizons by Beauty Bay. This one I ended up picking up off Mercari, and I've been playing around with this one. I really like these two cool toned rows down here. I don't as much reach into the like lighter yellowy orangey shades at the top, but I think this pink is really, really beautiful. Um, Overall, I think the formula, of course, is like typical Beauty Bay formula. I love the metallics in this particular palette. I think it's a gorgeous color story. So it flew, pretty high towards the top because I thought it was overall a very well done palette. Next is the other half of that Tarte collection. This is the Glamour palette, and this is the one that really like got me to buy the collection because Tarte's doing color. I couldn't believe it. There's some beautiful navy blues in here. This very denim-y blue shimmer is like so, so pretty. I loved these kind of olivey khaki greens that they had down here. You actually get like a pretty deep shade here, so you can make kind of a smoky eye look. I was very, very shocked. The quality on this one is excellent. The shimmers in here are super, super buttery. Let's see. Like, hello. Look how pretty those are. So um, if you're somebody that likes color and you thought that that palette looked kind of intriguing, it actually is pretty nice. So definitely think about picking it up before it's gone if you want it. Next up is this Moira Cosmetics. This is the Silver Mist palette, and it's like a little palette. I was comparing this one to the Natasha Denona palette, but this one, the shimmers in here are so much nicer quality. They have that kind of putty texture, which I like, and they have a lot of like dimension to them when you put them on the lid. The look that I did with this palette, I was like obsessed with the look that I did. So I'm super happy that I got a chance to try this one out, and it rose up pretty high in the ranking because of that. All right, coming in at number 3 is the Rude Cosmetics Cat Girl Chronicles palette. I found this at TJ Maxx and I had never tried anything from Rude Cosmetics. So I went ahead and picked this one up. This is the color story. I'll show it to you like this so you can actually see it a little easier. So this is the color story. It's got these beautiful, beautiful shimmers. It's got a really nice sparkly black in here. The only thing is I feel like the mattes are a little bit disjointed. I'm not sure why I needed that orange shade. And I think it's a pretty color story, but I do find myself using other palettes to kind of complement this one to create the mattes that I want before I go in with the shimmers. But the shimmers in here, dumb pretty. They saved this palette entirely. I was impressed enough by this palette that I did go ahead and pick up the other 3 that came in this collection. I haven't used them yet, but I will be. Coming in at number 2 is the Blend Bunny Dollhouse palette. And as you guys know, I'm not just ranking my new palettes that I'm trying, I'm ranking everything that I used in the month. So this is what this palette looks like. I really enjoy this palette. This palette makes a great addition to some of these other cool tone palettes to kind of bring in some of those extra shades and really round out the mattes that you need. On top of which, I think there's beautiful shimmers in here. I really, really love this shade up here. So overall, I was pretty impressed with this one, of course. And then last but not least is the Be Perfect Interstellar palette, the Carnival Interstellar palette. I think this is like the 5th one that Stacey Maria has done, but it looks like this. I have been dipping into this nonstop to help support the mattes and shimmers from the other palettes that I've been working with this month. Like this is a go-to like perfect rainbow palette. Plus you've got all these like smoky taupey grays. I loved this palette so much. So of course I had to rock it all the way up to a number 1. Okay, and with that said, that is everything for this video. I want to thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe before you go, and I'll catch you in my next video. Bye!